the more I started training, the more I saw it having these positive benefits in terms of mood.
Yeah.
Like, especially after jiu-jitsu, there's this weird endorphin rush that you get that even when you go in and you have a bad session, you're getting submitted all the time. But at the end of it, you're like, you know what? I learned a bunch. I got to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave here a couple percentage points more than when I came. And so for me overall, it's really helped my mental health in terms of just keeping that depression at bay. And it's given me sort of a framework to like build my life around.
What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. I'm sitting down with the Heathen, what's your Instagram handle?
The Heathen Machine.
The Heathen Machine. Mr. Matt Hayes.
Yes.
What is up, brother?
What's going on, man?
How are you? Thanks
Dude,
for coming out here,
First,
dude.
thanks for having me out here. This place is awesome. We did jiu-jitsu, got some rounds in. He gave me some awesome pointers. And it's Memorial Day. It's beautiful. And it's like, what a way to spend it doing jiu-jitsu, you know, getting better. And it's the name of the game, man.
Dude, what's crazy is we had tornadoes come through here yesterday. Yeah. Literally on the other side of the tree line over there, there was a little tornado that started to form. And thankfully everyone was okay.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because it was a beautiful day just like this. And then all of a sudden, these tornado sirens started to go off. And it's wild because now we're right back to it being beautiful weather and the wind is barely anything. You know?
So I live
crazy
about 2 hours from here, I guess east of here, and a place called Donovan. And the storms that rolled through here came our way, especially early in the morning. And like my parents will probably not have power for a week, maybe longer, because it knocked all the trees down. You got power lines down everywhere. There's a tree fell into their bedroom. It broke the window. Like, I mean, that's just par for the course for Missouri, man. Like, and it's been a crazy summer.
Yeah.
It's been rainy. It's been windy, and it's been warm. I felt like it got warm earlier than usual. So
yeah, it did. I don't mind the longer spring, but I do mind when tornadoes start to form in my front yard for sure.
Yeah,
then I'm ready for
I'm cool with
else.
that. I'm pretty fortunate. I think I've got some hills kind of protecting me, and I'm down in the valley, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I hope that that's one of the things, but I don't know, man. I've yet to be through a tornado, and I kind of don't want to be through a tornado.
Yeah,
so.
It wasn't great. I'm glad everything's okay. Yeah. But, dude, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you being here.
It's awesome.
So I want to start off by asking you the same question that I start off every single show with. And that question is, how does jiu-jitsu help your mental health?
Well, I've dealt with depression my whole life. It's just kind of followed me, you know, everywhere. And I have found ways to manage it. You know, sometimes they're effective. Then you add on top of that, you know, I'm a combat vet. I used to be around, you know, a bunch of really good dudes, and like you kind of get used to this environment where you're with like-minded people. And when I got out of the military, I think I kind of missed that a little bit. I mean, you probably understand. It's like there's that camaraderie. You're all kind of have the same goal. So probably about 2 years ago, I decided, like, you know, I think I want to start jiu-jitsu. It's just something I knew I should have done. And at the time, I wasn't specifically thinking like, oh, this is going to be good for my mental health. I was just, I want to be able to defend myself. You know, I want to be in great shape. And I want to accumulate skills because I think that's important as we go along in life. We need to accumulate skills. So anyway, I start jiu-jitsu and like I meet all these really cool people, and I realized then that I had found kind of what I was looking for. I was looking for, like, I don't know if a tribe's the right word, but I found people I could talk to, I could associate with. I didn't feel weird around them. I didn't feel out of place around them. And the more I got into jiu-jitsu, the more I did jiu-jitsu, the more I realized that I'm acquiring skills, that it's helping my mood, because it's like, how can you be angry and upset all the time when you're going to do jiu-jitsu? You get humbled.
Yeah.
right? You learn humility, and you learn that you're not the, you're not the baddest motherfucker on the block. Like, and I think that's a good thing. I think that I think everyone needs to be reminded that there's always someone a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And it sounds weird. You'd think like that's not good for your mental health, but it kind of is, because it gives you a more realistic view of where you're at and where you can go. And so the more I started training, the more I saw it having these positive benefits in terms of mood.
Yeah.
Like, especially after jiu-jitsu, there's this weird endorphin rush that you get that even when you go in and you have a bad session, you're getting submitted all the time. But at the end of it, you're like, you know what? I learned a bunch. I got to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave here a couple percentage points more than when I came. And so for me overall, it's really helped my mental health in terms of just keeping that depression at bay. And it's given me sort of a framework to like build my life around, because I like to write, I'm in school. And so having the jiu-jitsu being this sort of linchpin that I revolve everything else around has been really helpful. It's kept me engaged. It's kept my mind engaged. It keeps my body engaged. I'm 42, so it's like I want to be as healthy as possible, because a healthy body is a healthy mind, healthy body. So I'd say overall, jiu-jitsu has been tremendously helpful on my mental health, especially with like keeping that depression at bay and getting to talk to people that kind of understand why you're doing this. They don't look at you like, oh, you're doing that, like that's like violent, you want to break people's arms. It's
Yeah,
like no. That's not what it's about.
I just want to pretend to break someone's arm.
Right. And it's like, but that if you get into a confrontation, you're going to be prepared to use the skills you gain in jiu-jitsu, which ultimately that's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, because that was another thing for my mental health was, I'm a Marine, combat vet, but when you get out of that environment, it's really easy to kind of like get soft.
Yeah, right.
It's easy to get real soft. And so I think I felt myself going that way. And so what I did, and that's where jiu-jitsu comes in, is it kind of realigned me back to, I'm not trying to be a hard ass or anything, but I think there's a level of softness that we are obligated to keep at bay, because we go too far in one direction. I don't know, we lose that will to fight. It's like we lose that will, that aggression that will keep us alive in a life or death situation. Instead of just giving in, you're kind of ready to fight. You're like, look, I know how to defend myself. I know what I need to do. And you go on with that. So to really answer in a roundabout way, I think for jiu-jitsu and mental health, just finding a group of people I can feel comfortable with has been tremendous, and it's kept my mental state very even, which is good. So
yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's like the community kind of fosters this sort of a behavior pattern that then results in you not being depressed anymore.
Right.
And you also kind of have this accountability group that goes along with it.
Yeah, accountability is big.
Yeah,
because you mentioned this earlier.
Definitely.
About the turnover.
Yeah.
Like in jiu-jitsu, turnover is huge.
It's big.
Most people won't even get past white belt, let alone their blue belt. And most people don't even try it. They just they hear a story, or they they just won't even get that far. Yeah. So there's just really interesting, because when you find good training partners, they will hold you accountable. Especially if they know you're working through things, you got stuff going on in your life. Like, we had a friend, and he kind of disappeared from jiu-jitsu, and we're like, hey, what's going on? Like, and come to find out, he's going through some hard times, and we're like, hey man, look, this is when you should be coming here, because you can talk to us. Yeah. You can roll, get it out of your system, and you won't feel isolated. That's the other part about jiu-jitsu that really helped with me, and that mental health piece, was I live a life that some would see as isolating. I like to live out in the forest. So I'm not around a lot of people all the time.
Right.
So what jiu-jitsu has done is it's plugged me into just a group of people that, again, it's been really, really cool to have people I know I can go hang out with, sweat with, be sore with, and because they're all struggling with the same stuff, right? Like we're all kind of struggling with the same thing. This is life, and life can really suck sometimes. But when you know you got this, and I won't even call it a safe space because I don't think that's the right word.
Yeah.
You have like this.
It's a danger place.
Well, but in a good way. It's
Yeah,
like,
good
you know, you're going to go there, you're going to get beat up a little bit. But at the end of the day, everyone's hugging each other.
Yeah.
And like, you'll get all kinds of knowledge. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey man, are you good? Like, what's going on? Like, you can talk to us.
Yeah.
And like, that's really cool. You don't really find that a lot. And especially in this day and age where it seems like people are withdrawing more, jiu-jitsu and the community of jiu-jitsu, they want they embrace everybody. It's like, dude, come in, like, let's do this. Let's do this as a team, as a family. And I think it's really awesome to be a part of that. Like, it's really cool.
And I think that it goes hand in hand with the turnover rate that you're talking about, because the people that stick around, you develop this real respect for them.
Yes.
Because you know how difficult it is.
Yes.
And you know that there's most people who quit.
Right.
Most people quit, and that's okay. Because it's I think that there's kind of this thing that happens in jiu-jitsu right now where there's this debate over like what's the best way to introduce jiu-jitsu to people. Is it like, should you like not have them spar at first and maybe really like ease them into it?
Right.
Or should you like start sparring from day one? Like what's the best way to get someone introduced? And me personally, I feel like you have to introduce them to the hardness of it, but there are ways to ease them into it. Like we do a lot of positional rolling at Jiu-Jitsu Outlet and stuff like that. But it's, you got to ease them into it, but you can't like just not do it. You know, there's some places that just don't allow people to roll for like 6 months.
Yeah.
I've even heard of academies that don't let people roll until they're blue belt.
Yes.
And I think that's absurd.
It's absurd.
Because I don't think anyone should get a blue belt if they've never rolled. Like that's not a blue belt.
Well, the whole thing with jiu-jitsu has always been self-defense.
Yeah.
So how can you have any sort of confidence is if you train in jiu-jitsu? Because most people, look, they're going to probably get their blue belt within a year and a half, 2 years, right? Like average 2 years.
Right.
You'll get your blue belt. That's when I got mine, about 2 year mark, blue belt. But like, you have to be pressure tested. That's so important because it would be awful if you've been training jiu-jitsu for 6 months, but you haven't rolled, you haven't sparred live with anybody. Suddenly, you get into a confrontation, and you are not prepared to handle the kind of aggression and pressure that's coming at you from somebody who actually wants to hurt you, right? In jiu-jitsu, it's controlled, and everyone understands that.
Yeah.
But we're still going pretty hard. So there's that give and take. But if you don't even understand what pressure feels like, then you're kind of in trouble.
You got nothing.
You got nothing, because like the first jiu-jitsu gym I went to, I sparred my very first day. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
For sure.
Because I then understood, one, I already knew, like, okay, this is going to be hard. This was very tough. Physically and mentally, I'm like, I'm just getting submitted so much, and I'm exhausted because I'm a white belt, brand new. I'm like using all my muscle and strength, and quickly realized this is not the way to do it. And if I had to wait a year to know that, I felt like it would have been far more detrimental than day one thrown to the sharks.
Right.
Which I'm grateful for that. And especially as an older guy. I started at 40.
Right.
And
they didn't go easy on you.
They did not go easy on me. And I didn't want that, though. That's the thing. Like, I think there's some gyms and some like instructors that forget that we, for the most part, humans thrive on hard stuff. We thrive on challenges. We thrive on difficulty. And if you're going to go to a jiu-jitsu gym and they kind of soften it, I feel like you're missing out on really, like, at the heart of jiu-jitsu, what it is. It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And it needs to be, because from the self-defense aspect, we got to be prepared to defend ourselves, our loved ones, our children, whatever. And if you don't understand that, man, you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. You're not gonna really understand jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what Hickson Gracie says: if you don't know self-defense, you don't know jiu-jitsu. It's true.
It's true. And it's funny because you pointed something out today, and I'm so grateful for it. We did some half guard work, and just kind of mentioning the difference between sport and self-defense is that for I don't know, for the most part, I've always kind of seen them as the same because they're kind of taught the same, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're kind of taught the same. But you pointed out that when I was on the bottom, I kind of accepted it too much. And see, that was an important cue I needed because you're like, look, if we're looking at this from a self-defense aspect, you do not want to stay on your back. And even though I know that, having you kind of remind me of that was very, and then like our roles changed suddenly.
It was
like
great.
All of a sudden I'm like, okay, I don't want to be on my back. He's so right. And so I'm going to carry that forward now.
Yeah.
Because while the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu is lots of fun, we have to remember at the same time, we're using this to defend ourselves.
For sure.
And we obviously we're not going to be pulling guard or anything, but like, you know, and that goes back to, I think wrapping it back into mental health is like having the confidence and knowing you can defend yourself and the people you're with. I think that's a force multiplier, right? Like it helps your mental health, that confidence you gain from it. That's just not something you can really get from anything else.
Yes.
Other than doing jiu-jitsu, you know? And
or fighting or, you know, martial arts in general.
Yes.
Combat martial arts.
Yes.
Dude, I love everything you're saying, and it resonates a lot with how I feel. Let me ask you this. How do you feel jiu-jitsu helps other parts of your life, like your relationships with other people and stuff like that?
So, I think I said this earlier, but like jiu-jitsu has given me this interesting framework to kind of organize my life around.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to train. I know I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu. And it's funny because I like to write. Right, I'm working on my master's degree. I'm writing my first novel, and jiu-jitsu. I think people forget that jiu-jitsu, while being very physical, it's also very mental, and there's a lot of creativity in jiu-jitsu, right? So I realized that writing and jiu-jitsu were like these perfect companions because you need your imagination for both, right?
Right.
Like you need to be able to like visualize things. And I know like writers visualize, people who train jiu-jitsu all the time, they're visualizing things. So jiu-jitsu has permeated, and like the philosophy and the concepts have permeated into my writing, into how I sort of structure my life. Because right now, as a martial art, because that's how I see myself as a martial artist. I'm not I compete, but it's like, you know, I'm not going to be professional. That's not the thing. I just want to be good as I can be. So it's become my framework that I will basically build my life from, right? If I can do my jiu-jitsu, right, and ground myself, then it seems like everything else is going to be okay, you know, because I could work through my writing problems when I'm doing my jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I can work through stress issues while I'm doing jiu-jitsu, or I'll just straight up forget about them. And like, that's huge, man.
It's helpful.
And even though they come back, it's not as strong.
Yeah,
because
it's
like you kind of get it
toned down a
out of
little
your
bit.
system. So yeah, jiu-jitsu it's become a real big part of my life, man. Like, and I never thought it would. That's the funny thing, is I never saw myself as like a jiu-jitsu guy. I just was like, look, I want to be able to defend myself. I want to be in good shape. I don't want to be a punk. And then next thing I know, I'm driving all over the place. I'm training at Pedigo. That's where I met you at Pedigo, and like coming here to train, and which was awesome. And just going to all these places to train and learn different things. It's been like, if I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu, I would have none of these experiences. I'd be at my house, isolated.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of just doing whatever, missing out on all this cool, like this awesome community that jiu-jitsu really is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of become a guiding light in my life. So
That's what I always tell people, because I know also I wanted to talk about this. You're really into functional training. Something we talk about a lot
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
we've been chatting about it today,
Yes.
like dumbbell
Yes.
lifting, but also kettlebells,
Sandbags,
barbells, the sandbag,
mace bells.
all this stuff.
Yes.
So I know you're really into that, and you've got a or Instagram page about that. I'll link it below for people to check out. And but a lot of times I hear people say like, "Oh, I don't need to start training jiu-jitsu because I already do CrossFit or I already do this." Like, what's your take on that? On people who say that, like, how can jiu-jitsu help you even if you are already doing like a strength sport like weightlifting or CrossFit or something like that?
So yeah, I've been weight training for almost 25 years at this point, and I had the same kind of mindset. I'm like, I'm strong, I lift heavy weight. Surely if I get my hands on somebody, I'm not gonna have any problems.
Marine Corps veteran.
Yeah, you're at a Marine. Like, I'm like, there's no, whatever. Some 130-pound person, there's no way they're gonna submit me. There's no way. And I get my first class, and like everybody submits me, and I'm just like, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, am I not strong? And then I quickly realized that, oh, I think we see strength. I think we view strength in a very narrow way. Like, we only think like, oh wow, this guy deadlifts 700 pounds. He's strong. And he is strong, but he's strong in a certain way. That doesn't mean he's gonna go and do well in jiu-jitsu, because he's probably not. More than likely, he's gonna get submitted by everybody, because when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you realize body mechanics. And in jiu-jitsu, it's all about like invading that personal space, like that knee elbow. You know, everyone wants to get in there, and once you start getting all stretched out, you suddenly realize like, oh, I'm not strong here. So somebody who really understands jiu-jitsu can take someone like Gordon Ryan, for example, right, when he rolled with Hafthor Bjornsson.
Yeah,
Dominated him. Hafthor weighs 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan's like 220, but he had no problem controlling him, because Hafthor didn't understand that there are lots of areas he's going to be weak in.
Yeah.
So I think me being one of those guys that thought that, I just didn't understand how effective technique is, how effective technicality is,
Right.
and how effective position, being in the right position at the right time to pin the right parts of a person's body, will almost always defeat brute strength. I'm not saying strength doesn't play a role, because I think strength is very important, and I think it's a technique. Now, it shouldn't. I think you should have technique with it. But I think people who do strength sports tend to have a very skewed view of like what their strength will do for them.
Right.
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 Hey, it'll probably do well against most untrained people, right? Probably. But a trained jiu-jitsu person, nah. Like, it ain't gonna work.
Right.
They're gonna know exactly what's happening. They're gonna know how to off balance them, how to guide their limbs in the whatever way to. So basically, you negate their strength by putting them in disadvantaged positions.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
and
that's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's different. Grappling
It's
strength is so different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
And the cardio too. It's different.
it's so different. So
Yeah.
because I've been doing like, I've been working on my zone 2 cardio.
Yeah.
Just because.
What's that? What's zone 2 cardio?
So I've just gotten into this from George, actually.
Yeah.
George, I asked him about this. And so zone 2 is basically working. So I'm 42. So say you take the 220 minus your age, right? That gives me my maximum heart rate. Mine's probably a bit higher because I can get my heart rate higher just from training. And then you subtract that, and that gives you your max heart rate. Then you go about 60% of that. So for me, I'm trying to keep my heart rate between 112 and about 140.
Okay.
So basically, I want to be able to breathe through my nose the entire time. That's how I know I'm in that zone. And so what the research shows, like Mike Musumeci, he does almost exclusive zone 2 cardio. But what the research shows is that it helps you recover faster. It conditions your lungs, your body. I guess basically to handle that cardio load for a longer time. Because with
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, what I'm learning, so for me, I feel like jiu-jitsu is similar to like training with a sandbag, where you have like these real quick, intense bouts of energy expenditure. And then say you're rolling with somebody, you end up in a position and like you both stop, but you're not stopping because you're tired. You're stopping. It's like a strategic pause. Like, all right, what is this guy going to do next? And then he's waiting for you to do something. But at the same time, that's your time to recover.
Right.
Right. So like, I find that like the sandbag training, interestingly, has helped with that conditioning because like, again, you're lifting a heavy sandbag and then you rest, and it's almost mimicking that grappling with another person.
Yeah.
And then you end up in a spot, you're like, okay, what's going to happen here? I'm in side control. I'm going to take a breath. And then the person underneath is like, well, let me start thinking of a way to escape.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, so that's the, I think the interesting thing about like the importance of strength training, being in good condition, and training in that zone 2 cardio, because I think it'll just help supplement the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, I only train once a week. I only do strength and conditioning. I only lift once a week, and that's
crazy,
it.
man.
Because what I found was that as long as I'm training jiu-jitsu enough, I think jiu-jitsu, it's probably hands down the best active resistance system you could ever have.
Yeah.
The person doesn't want you to choke them. They don't want you to do anything. They want to be on top, and they want to dominate you.
For sure.
And you don't want them to do that either. So there's nothing in this world that can build. That's why wrestlers are so strong.
Yeah.
Because they're always controlling another strong person that doesn't want to be controlled.
It's hard as shit.
And that's what's great about jiu-jitsu, especially if you're training at a really, like, a gym that trains hard.
Right.
Is like, you're going to come out of that, you're going to be stronger. And we joke about this. We had a black belt instructor, and we would joke about how he felt like wood. Just his limbs and his arms were just hard just from grappling for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, it hardens your body.
It does.
In a way nothing else can.
Yeah.
Because think about,
it's kind of its own thing.
It is. Like, I remember
It's got its own strength system.
The first couple weeks of jiu-jitsu were so rough. I would have bruises. Like, my elbows would hurt. Like, I got cauliflower ear within my first 3 months.
Me too. Yeah,
just
when I
boom.
started too.
My first, and everyone was jealous, which is funny. I was like, I didn't even want it. I didn't want it. And then I get it. But anyway.
Same.
But after those couple of weeks, like, all of that went away.
Right.
And then I remember training with a new person, and I felt bad because I'm like, oh, God, I'm going too hard on him. But then I realized, oh, he's going through what I just went through.
Right.
Like, everything hurts. Like, they're being just really hard. Like, I'm getting an elbow in my jaw. And it's like, hey, sorry, bro. It's like this part of the game.
Right.
So, yeah, jiu-jitsu, I think it's such a really unique strength conditioning system that if you do it enough, that you could supplement 1, maybe 2 lifting sessions. And I think that's perfect. I think that's like, you could do an upper body and a lower body. Me at 42, as long as I'm training hard and technical, I can get away with it's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hour session of strength conditioning, to where I can maintain my strength. I can maintain my mobility. I work mobility through the week, but I'll work through full ranges of motion with resistance, which really helps a lot, especially in jiu-jitsu, because there's gonna be times your arms are extended, and you're gonna be weak in these really weird positions, but you can kind of work on those. But I think if you do jiu-jitsu enough, because that's the thing I learned, was I almost overtrained because I was weightlifting a bunch and then adding more days of jiu-jitsu in, and suddenly I'm like, oh, like I was getting sick, I was sore, and I'm like, and I realized I had to, if I'm adding something, I have to take something out. So once I started adding more jiu-jitsu in, I just started dropping my strength conditioning days to where, like, oh, I can maximize my jiu-jitsu and still supplement it with weight training. Because remember, we want to get good at jiu-jitsu, not weight training.
Right.
Weight training should always be a supplement. It shouldn't be the goal.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean,
exactly.
If you powerlift, sure. I know there's there's a lot of people that do jiu-jitsu that also competitively powerlift. That's different.
Yeah.
That's a sport. But if you want to get good at jiu-jitsu, you have to train jiu-jitsu, but don't neglect strength training.
Yeah.
It's so important. Even if it's picking up rocks,
It's huge.
bricks, stones, whatever. I mean, strength is super important.
Yeah. I love the kettlebells, and like we were talking about before, lifting rocks, lifting logs, things like that are odd. Like you said, the sandbag. You've inspired me to get a sandbag and make one. I actually have the bag to make it. I just need to go get the rubber mulch or whatever I'm going to put in it to make it into the sandbag.
Well, here's the thing. So
it's not hard to make.
No,
I've made them before. I
no.
just need to do it.
No, and like my outdoor gym, you know, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
And like I have a sled I use, and like me and my dad made it out of scrap wood. Like you don't need a lot.
Right.
Like you only need what you need, right?
My sled we made out of a tire.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and it's like you only need what you need. And so that really hit home when I was living on the road full time, traveling like with my gym.
Yeah.
And then when I got to my place where I live now, I wanted to pare my gym down to only the most bare essentials.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So now I'm at a point where you look at my gym setup, it's almost all of it a good, like I'll drag stuff out of the woods. I have a 124 pound like tank that I found in the woods, and I was like, that'll be great to carry and flip around and stuff. So I use that, and I got all these cinder blocks I'll toss around.
Those are great.
It doesn't take much. And that's why like I get so annoyed at people that they'll train jiu-jitsu, but then they'll make excuses. They're like, well, I don't strength train, and they're getting hurt and injured, and it's like, look, strength training isn't just good for your strength; it's good for injury reduction.
Right.
You'll never prevent injury, but you can help reduce the odds that you're going to get injured.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like your tendons, because our tendons are always getting twisted out of place and
beat up.
Yeah, if you're not strengthening those, look, something's going to give. That's just a matter of time. That's the law of physics, right? It's like as force is constantly applied and you don't do anything to sort of like strengthen that, it's going to give.
Yeah.
And I've been super fortunate, even at 42, even starting jiu-jitsu at 40, training for 2 years, and now, and really in these last 4 months, training at one of the top gyms. They train pretty hard up at Pedigo.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't been injured.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to knock on wood because I'm confident in the protocol that I follow. It's very intentional, you know. So I think there's a lot to be said about not just strength training to get strong, but strength training to be durable and resilient for jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You know, and that'll increase your longevity.
Well, and going back to what we were talking about before, they kind of feed hand in hand, because if you're able to train jiu-jitsu more and harder, you'll be able to develop more of that grappling strength that is actually going to help you on the mats. Yes. And then your strength training complements that, because then the other thing you might need is you need bigger biceps to choke people, honestly. Like the bigger your biceps are, the easier it's going to be to rear naked choke someone.
And big shoulders too.
Same thing, yeah. If you got big shoulders, big arms, big forearms, like you can choke people a lot easier. You're gonna be able to grip fight a lot better. Like strength helps a lot. You know, like,
well, it's like
there's stuff and not only does it help, but I would argue to finish a high level guy, you've got with a rear naked choke, you've got to have strong biceps. You've got to have a good squeeze, or else he's not going to tap.
They're not going to give it to you.
You're going to tuck his chin and get out of there, you know?
Like,
or your arm's going to gas. Your arm's going to gas, you know?
That's the other thing. That's the other unique thing about jiu-jitsu is that the kind of concentric strength that you build from it. Yeah. Because, so we worked some close guard today, and right now, I just haven't drilled close guard as much as I know I need to. And I know that my concentric strength on my inner legs is weak. Yeah. My close guard is weak right now because I've just kind of started getting into the whole close guard system. You helped me with some pretty key concepts today, but I need to strengthen my inner thighs because my squeeze strength is not where it needs to be, because like you said, look, you roll with like a high level person, man, they're going to get out of that so fast and they're going to do it however they want. If you can't keep your legs locked together in the close guard, it kind of defeats the purpose of close guard, you know? Right. And then you can't attack from it. So I'm in the process right now of like, I've developed a ton of concentric strength, obviously on the upper body, but now I have to focus on building that same kind of strength for my lower body.
Yeah.
Because so it's funny because I don't think most people, even in strength sports, most of them aren't training their inner thighs. A lot of people neglect that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really important. And you don't realize how important it is until you do something like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, try to
where,
triangle someone.
unlike wrestling, you use everything.
Yeah.
Like wrestling is about control, right? Get the person to the ground.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu, we start when we're on the ground. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, you pin me? All right, well, and you just start attacking limbs. So for me, I'm now having to address this kind of weakness I have because I never had to address it.
Right.
But now that I'm working closed guard more and being taught it more, I was like, oh, okay, this is an area I'm gonna have to shore up.
Right.
So yeah, it's been interesting and humbling because that goes back to why jiu-jitsu is so great. It's a never-ending game.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending quest for skills.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Nobody, Hicks and Gracie, they don't even know everything there is about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because it evolves.
Yeah.
So there's probably stuff in this new era of jiu-jitsu that the Gracies don't even know.
I'm sure.
It's just inevitable.
Sure.
It's inevitable.
Sure. And it's amazing because like I was at the PGF a couple weeks ago and I was watching backstage Ben Eddy was teaching his rubber guard to Dean Lister.
Dude,
and Dean Lister
awesome,
had his student hat on and he was learning the Hindulatine from Ben Eddy.
That's so cool.
And I got it on camera. Maybe I'll splice it in.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
it was really cool to see. And to see a lot of these older legends are now putting on the student hat and going and trying to learn what the other newer competitors are doing. It's really cool, man. I love it. And man, I've just really loved this conversation. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
We do got to wrap this up, but just one more thing that I wanted to talk about though is I know that we both have a mutual love of philosophy. I studied philosophy in college. I actually have a whole nother podcast about philosophy called Beyond Homo Sapien. I don't know if anyone knows that, but check it out, Beyond Homo Sapien, if you want to learn about esoteric philosophy.
Cool.
But
I'm there.
I haven't done an episode in a minute, but we can do a little one right now. But let's talk about that a little bit. How do you feel there's elements of philosophy in jiu-jitsu? And like, I guess a better question could be, there's so many different philosophies in the world. There's Hermetic philosophy, there's Platonic philosophy, Stoic philosophy, skeptical philosophy. Like, what do you feel jiu-jitsu best represents, and how do you feel like it best kind of expresses that philosophical discipline?
I think naturally I lean towards Stoicism just because I like to be as in control of my emotions as possible. In jiu-jitsu, if you get too emotional, that can become a detriment. Where if you can go into a role or a competition, or even if you're being attacked by somebody, if you can maintain that calm center, right, you kind of take your emotion out of it, I feel like you will always perform the way you need to. Because like when emotion gets involved, and obviously we need emotion, I'm not saying emotion's bad, but there are situations where if you get too overly emotional in the wrong time, it can be a detriment to yourself and the people around you. Because I learned this in the Marine Corps and in combat. If somebody panics or something, that it spreads, right? Like that can spread. So for me, I think, like I said, I'm just naturally a more stoic kind of guy. I'm reserved. I don't always display a ton of emotion, and it's not because I'm emotionless. It's just I will do it around the people I'm comfortable with. And for jiu-jitsu, that's what I feel like really, for me, it kind of reinforces that stoic attitude where even when I'm in an awful position, I'm getting smothered. It's like, instead of panicking, you just take your loss, whatever, and you move on. I learned something. And so that's kind of where I go with it, and into more, and I think that's how jiu-jitsu ties into something like stoicism, where like you have to be very rational.
Definitely.
In this situation, or else you're gonna kind of get tied up in like, oh God, I can't breathe, or oh, this is, you just start thinking about weird stuff, and you want to be as centered as possible. And by kind of putting your emotion aside and letting your jiu-jitsu and technique take over. I don't know. I think that I just feel like I think that's important. So.
Yeah. I ascribe to the Hermetic school of philosophy, and that's what I've been really into for a while.
Okay.
And in Hermeticism, something that's talked about a lot is like harnessing your emotions and kind of using it and using that energy for certain things. And that's something that Jiu-Jitsu really teaches me, and that's kind of what I picked up from what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like not that you want to like say emotions are evil or whatever,
No,
but rather that
Right.
you know, you need to harness it.
Weaponize
you need
it.
to weaponize
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can use, like in a jiu-jitsu
Yes.
match, I've always thought it's really interesting in jiu-jitsu, one of the best things you can say about someone is that person's really aggressive. Like, and like you were just saying, George was telling you and Cooper at Pedigo.
We needed to be more aggressive.
Yes. But nowhere else in life will people tell you that. At your job, your boss is probably not going to be like, hey, I need to be more aggressive out there. I mean, maybe if you have a sales job.
Maybe.
You know, if you have like a sales job, maybe. But you know what I mean? Like most people, if you work at a grocery store, you're not supposed to be aggressive.
Don't be so aggressive, man.
Yeah,
be a little too aggressive.
Be a little too aggressive, yeah. Any other place in life. Or you get the cops called on you. Be like, hey, there's someone out here being aggressive. Like, that's bad, you know? Yeah. But on the jiu-jitsu mats, that's one of the best things. That's what, it's not only that, it's like, I even hear people like complaining, like, if only I could be more aggressive. You know, like in jiu-jitsu, that's something we like struggle with.
We talked about this. It's
crazy.
I even have that issue. Like today, like you talking about, hey,
don't be on your back.
Don't be on your back. Remember, let's look at this from a self-defense standpoint.
Yeah.
And that comes down to me being like, but once you said that, and once I understood, it changed our role.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, okay, now suddenly he's being a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
And it just adds a little more dynamism? Is that a word?
We can make it a word.
Okay.
If it's not
more dynamics. It adds more dynamics to our role. So
yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome, man. The weaponized emotion, that's a great point because you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, but in jiu-jitsu, if you get too emotional, then that's something that can work against you.
Yes.
You know, you see people who get too emotional when
make
they
mistakes.
make mistakes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or they expend too much energy, maybe.
Right.
Is the other thing. And that's something, again, going back to Hermeticism. In Hermeticism, it's all about like cultivating energy and cultivating your own energy. And really the concept that like everything is energy, you know, that's like the foundational thing that is reality it's all sort of spiritual consciousness. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I feel that martial arts teaches a person to harness that. At least that's what it's done for me, to not get too carried away.
For sure.
And then that follows you in other parts of life.
Controlling your emotions.
Yeah.
Keeping a level head.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like you will learn, that is something that will be instilled into you in jiu-jitsu, 100%.
Yeah, man.
If you stick with it. Got to stick with it.
And going back to philosophy, if you look at every single philosophical school and religion, they all have the same purpose, which is to create good humans that aren't assholes. Right. Honestly, like that's honestly like the big goal of all of these things is like, let's just make you a good person.
Yes.
And if we can just get you there, like we can do a lot.
And it's no coincidence that some of the greatest philosophers also wrestled.
Exactly. Plato.
So,
this is something I've talked about on this show before. And I feel like he not only wrestled, he founded his philosophical school next door to his old wrestling academy because he knew that those are the people he wanted to teach the secrets of the world.
Yes. We'll wrap this up, but there's something interesting I think that's happened to our society. For some reason, we want to separate the scholars from the warriors.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why
Not how
we do that. We don't have to. You can be both.
Right.
Like, you can be scholarly, but you can also have that other side of you that is ready to defend yourself, ready to defend other people, that trains hard, that understands that not everybody's a good person. We just have to accept that. And so I always find it interesting, like talking about philosophy, like those philosophers, those ancient Greek philosophers, so many of them were warriors. They fought, they wrestled, they fought, they did all that stuff.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, we forgot that. And maybe Western academia was like, no, you're a professor. You're supposed to wear a tweed vest and a pipe, and you're supposed to be portly and You just be
Yeah.
soft and not, not aggressive.
The two go hand in hand, strength and brains.
Absolutely. I think
That's the best. That's how
yes,
it's supposed to work.
Yes, 100%.
And what we find about nutrition and exercise is that it's actually like the healthiest stuff you can do. And that's one of the reasons why, if you look at all the best, like most successful people in the world, they all have personal trainers.
Yes.
A lot of them are into martial arts these days.
Yep.
Like look at Zuckerberg. Look at
Biggest
Zuckerberg.
one, yes.
Yeah, Zuckerberg's a massive fan.
MMA.
I think
MMA.
Yeah, he's in MMA.
Yeah.
And dude, he's looking good. Like he's
Yeah.
looking shredded these
Yeah.
days. Like he looks like he'd be a tough roll.
It's crazy.
I think I could beat him up pretty easily though. Like let's be real. I'd
be
probably
honest.
Uchimata him
Let's be
into
honest, bro.
his face into the ground.
You'd hit him with that omoplata.
Zuck, I'm talking to you, man. I know you watch this show.
Yeah, you'd
But,
hit him with that omoplata, bro.
dude,
That's what
I'm
you
gonna
get.
applaud you.
Yes.
But come find out, Zuck, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway,
true.
hang out. But there's a lot of these guys are into jiu-jitsu,
Yep.
and into training. And there's a reason for that. It's because it helps your brain.
Yeah.
It helps you think better. It helps them be a better CEO at Meta or whatever.
I just think it balances you out.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan Peterson talks about this, and I hear it. I don't really even follow him, but he makes a good point. Weak people are the most dangerous.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Like you look at
100%.
fascism and all those leaders were weak people.
Yeah.
They were weak.
They were. That's
And
why they do that, because they're scared.
Yes. And so it's why it goes back to why I guess I find it interesting that as our society developed and moved forward, we kind of separated that.
Yeah.
When it used to be a one thing, like warriors were the scholars, scholars were the warriors. Somewhere along the line, we kind of, I don't know, maybe it's because of comfort. We want comfort in our lives. We've kind of gotten away from that, but you can be both. And I think it's actually more important now to have both of those.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important in our society today because
Yeah.
it's kind of becoming a lost art.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And that's honestly,
You know?
going back to philosophy, a central part of a lot of philosophical schools like Taoism, Hermeticism. A lot of these, they have this idea of the yin and yang,
Yeah.
of like the masculine and the feminine that are supposed to work together. That's a big part of Hermetic philosophy, is those two forces coming together. And I see that in jiu-jitsu as well, that you have to be aggressive in the training room, but then you also have to rest and recover.
Yes.
You have to go to the sauna or the
Yes.
cold plunge or just take a nap or chill,
Yes.
or you have to take a day off, or else you're never gonna win. Like
right.
if you look at all the best athletes in the world, I remember I spent 10 days with Ethan Krellinston once,
Nice.
and I got to hang out with him for a while.
That's cool.
And one of the biggest things about that I noticed from getting to hang out with him, he stayed at my house for a while. He took naps all the time. Like whenever he wasn't training,
my
that
kind of guy.
that guy was napping.
That's my kind of guy.
And I almost thought, like, Ethan, if you listen, I'm sorry to say this, but
awesome, man.
I thought he was a little lazy. Like, I almost thought, like, what, this guy, he doesn't do anything. Like, but then in the training room,
Ferocious.
smoke
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
And now you see where it's taken him.
Yes.
This was years ago. This was like forever ago when I did the Matrix show. And, man, he freaking has exploded, right?
It's funny
so
you brought him-
see that
yeah,
work
yeah,
ethic. And
yeah.
he's jacked, too,
Yes.
man. He's one of the jackedest people
So me and
in
Coop
jiu-jitsu.
have been studying his pressure guard passing.
Dude, whenever in his off time,
He's amazing.
most relaxed guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like just straight up napping,
Yeah.
watching TV, playing a video game, like just the epitome of either he's on or he's chilling, but it's all because he's so
Balance.
focused.
Gotta have that balance.
But that's
man.
what I've realized
Yeah.
is that's what a lot of people neglect is they don't focus on the recovery. They don't
Yeah.
have the yin.
Yeah.
They don't have that. They can't turn it off. They have to
Yes.
always be go,
Yes.
go.
And those are the
They
guys
can't
that get
recover.
injured.
They get injured.
Staff. They
get
get all
staff.
these weird things.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think that's why I'm glad I started jiu-jitsu maybe at a later age, because
Yeah.
I kind of have no choice but to have recovery be a very big part of my, because look, I wouldn't be able to train jiu-jitsu 5 days a week, multiple times, like 2 or 3 of those days, we're training multiple sessions. So I'm doing like 3 hours of jiu-jitsu at 42. I couldn't do that if
Yeah.
I didn't take my recovery seriously, if I wasn't eating the right food. Sleep, look, I've had a complicated relationship with sleep over these last like 3 or 4 years. Sometimes I get good sleep, but I always make sure I get as good a sleep as I can get.
Yeah.
Because it's very important. Stretching, mobility. I need to do all these things so that when I do train, I can perform the way I want to, and I can hang with these younger guys and not feel like I'm out of place. I feel like I belong.
Yeah.
And they would never make me feel that way. But for me, yeah, recovery is incredibly important.
It's huge.
You know, stretching, sauna, ice bath, whatever you need to do, it needs to be a big part of the jiu-jitsu journey. Like, just a massively important aspect. So, and you're right.
100%.
A lot of guys, especially the younger guys, we've seen it.
Yeah.
Like, you see it, like these young guys, they're like, nah, man, I'm going to be 18 my whole life.
Yeah.
It's like, brother, I hate to break the news, but by the time you're 22, you're going to be like,
you got to recover.
You're going to be stiff getting up from your chair.
Yeah.
And like, look, there's some guys that I train with now, like shoulders are hurting and they're young and they're not recovering.
Yeah, right.
They're going out, eating, whatever. Maybe not, maybe training a little too hard.
Train too much. That was what I did in my 20s. I just trained too much.
Yep.
Like when I was in college, I was in ROTC. So I'd go and do my ROTC workout in the morning, which was usually running. And then I'd go to the gym after that and we'd lift a little bit for like maybe 30, 40 minutes after the training. Then I'd go back to the gym at like 3 p.m. and I'd do like another lift. And then at night, I'd go to judo practice because I would do judo.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I was doing
That's
like 2 or 3 workouts a day.
That's a lot.
And I totally beat myself up. And I never got stronger. And I didn't understand recovery because I thought, oh, I'm not getting stronger. I've got to work out more and work out harder.
It was like a constant breakdown.
Yeah, but really, I just needed to take a break and let my body heal.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then I started doing that more. And guess what? I got stronger. Crazy.
It's weird how that works.
Wild, yeah.
Like so I just took last week. Well, last week was like a deload week for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about it because I know I've come back and I'll be maybe stronger isn't the right word, but I'll come back feeling refreshed.
Yeah.
Like today I felt really good. I only did 2 sessions last week, going from 5, and then I rolled a day and I'm like, oh man, it felt really good.
Yeah.
You know, like felt awesome. It was a good way to get back into it. And again, that recovery was just it's got to be a part of it, man.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, dude, this has been such a great conversation.
Thanks for having me out here, man.
Yeah,
this place is awesome, cool gym. Like
anytime, man.
Drop some good knowledge on me that I'm going to implement into my own jiu-jitsu. Some really good concepts. And
here to help,
man.
Here to help.
Again, this is why jiu-jitsu is awesome. We didn't know each other a couple months ago.
No.
And now
now we're buds.
We rolled, we hung out, and like we're gonna stay in touch.
Yeah.
Like
hell yeah.
He writes, I write. Like this is awesome. This is what jiu-jitsu is all about, man.
Bringing people together, man. Bringing the world together.
Yes,
That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Well, dude, do you got anything to promote or anything you want to talk about?
Just check me out at the Heathen Machine on Instagram. I post, every week I post. I try to infuse some positivity, some mental health advice, and a little bit of strength conditioning into my posts. So it's kind of this holistic approach. So yeah, that's about all I do right now. So if you want to check it out on Instagram at the Heathen Machine.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'll put it down below. Appreciate you, Matt, coming on the show.
I appreciate it, brother.
That was the worst handshake
it's all right.
in the world.
It's all right.
I suck at these things sometimes, guys. Well, appreciate you watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out jiu-jitsuoutlet.com if you want to buy a shirt. Peace.